This is the gateway to one of Scotland's most beautiful glens, easily accessible from Fort William on foot, by bike, car or bus. From the floor of Glen Nevis you can see some of the different rocks that make up the Highlands of Scotland, as well as dramatic evidence of sculpting by the huge Ice Age glacier which once filled the glen. It is bordered by more than 20 different mountain peaks, including mighty Ben Nevis. What shaped and formed the glen and mountains we see today? The story behind the scenery is as dramatic and exciting as the landscape itself. While it is relatively easy to imagine that ice played a big part in the shaping of Glen Nevis, the story revealed by the rocks themselves is even more astonishing. Most of the rocks seen in the glen were originally laid down as sediments on the seafloor some 700 million years ago. It is estimated that the rocks in Glen Nevis were at one time buried some 20 kilometers below the surface, so enormous amounts of material must have disappeared to reveal the rocks as they are now. Layers of quartz, sand and mud were buried and turned into sandstone and siltstone. Then, at a later date, these rocks were squeezed and crumpled on a huge scale. This massive squeeze caused by two great plates colliding resulted in the formation of the Caledonian mountain chain with huge peaks up to 6,000 meters high. Soon after the Caledonian Mountains had been uplifted, huge quantities of magma formed within the Earth's crust. Some of this magma escaped to the surface and poured out as lava. Remains of these lavas can be seen forming the upper half of Ben Nevis. Two huge magma chambers developed in the Glen Nevis area, one in the Mamores and another formed directly beneath what is now the summit of Ben Nevis. The rocks we see today represent the roots of that ancient mountain chain. Ice sheets covered all of Scotland except the very highest peaks during the more intense glacials. These may have occurred 5 or 6 times in the last 750,000 years. Even in the many less intensely cold episodes, smaller mountain glacier existed in the corries and glens of the Highlands. At the end of the dead-end road up Glen Nevis, a mile-long path squeezes through a tree-lined gorge, to debouch suddenly onto a meadow surrounded by steep mountains. The gorge is a spectacular feature in itself but is overshadowed by Steall Waterfall, the second highest waterfall in the UK. Once you get through the gorge, the glen opens out dramatically and you see waterfall cascading down a high wall of white quartzite rock. It spills out of Coire Mail, which is a superb example of a glacially carved hanging valley. It stands at a massive height of 120 meters in a single drop. The River Nevis flows through Glen Nevis on its short journey to the sea from the rainfall that pours onto Ben Nevis and the surrounding mountains. The Lower Falls is a great place to see, particularly when it's raining. Millions of liters of fresh water pour over the rock on its way to the sea. It's no surprise that our area is a favorite for Hollywood locations when we have so many visitors awestruck by the beauty of Glen Nevis. Many big blockbuster movies are filmed here as well as not so well-known ones. Braveheart is a well-known film which features Glen Nevis as a location. Many scenes were filmed along the River Nevis, including the barn where the nobles were slain. Most of the battle scenes were filmed in Ireland, as even Mel Gibson couldn't fight off the English soldiers and the Scottish midges at the same time. Rob Roy also featured Glen Nevis in its scenes. Most notably, the scene in which Rob Roy rides on horseback with the Duke of Argyll on his way to the sword fight. During the Jacobite rebellion, Glen Nevis was a place where Highlanders would plan their attacks on the garrison fort, where the English soldiers were kept under siege for 2 days in April 1746. Today, Glen Nevis is still the home of the Cameron family, who operate Glen Nevis Holidays, one of Scotland's best self-catering, touring and camping parks. Glen and the surrounding area has a fantastic range of walks and hiking routes for all levels of ability. Whether you want to climb Ben Nevis, explore a forest or amble along a riverside, you'll find a walk that's right for you. No doubt, Glen Nevis is one of the most beautiful glens in Scotland.